Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel, North Garden Comics. My name is Chris, and this episode is part of a series I call My Comic Book Adventures, where I'll show you the good comics I find at great prices at different shows, sales, and conventions. Today, we're headed to a garage sale where I found this stack of comics for 20 bucks. Check it out. Alright, before we get to the books themselves, let me paint the picture for you a little bit here. As you heard me say in the intro, these books I picked up at a garage sale. It was actually part of a citywide garage sale that I went to with a coworker friend of mine, and we had looked up online to see if any of these places had comic books to begin with, and this was the one and only house on that citywide garage sale that specifically listed comic books for sale. And I can say generally that buying comics at a garage sale can really be hit or miss. For me, mostly it's miss, but when you hit, sometimes it can be a really good hit. And the big reason for that is because unlike a store or a convention, when people are having a garage sale out of their house, likely you're running into people who are looking to get rid of things. And they'll usually do that at a very good price. That's the whole reason many of us go to garage sales to begin with, is to find good things that people don't want anymore, and they're willing to offload them for a reasonable price. And so we went to this garage sale, and they had other miscellaneous items, but I had my eye set on the comic books, and I walked into this garage, and there were 5 or 6 long boxes of comics, all bagged and boarded. And as I started rifling through them, my heart rate's going because I'm excited to look through these and see what I can find. Everything was listed at $1 a piece, and I noticed that most of the titles were actually DC titles, which for DC fans, that's awesome. Historically though, I'm generally a Marvel collector, so I wasn't sure what I was going to find to add to my collection, but I did come away with some really good finds. The first books I picked up were from a Batman story from the late 80s. That was right around the time I started reading Batman, and one of the big stories of the time was in 1988. They did a story called A Death in the Family, which ultimately led to the death of Robin at that time, who was Jason Todd. And I've only ever had part 4 of that story, which is kind of a bummer because that's the issue right after Jason Todd gets killed. So of course the key issue to have in your collection is part 3 of 4, where he actually gets killed. But I've only ever had part 4, and I did have the trade paperback so I could read the full story, but I've always been missing those first 3 issues, so how psyched was I when I found all the first 3 issues for $1 a piece, and I picked up Batman number 426, and these covers are all done by an artist named Mike Mignola, and yes, that is how you say his last name. I say that because in my mind all these years I've been thinking his last name, or I've just been pronouncing it at least, as Mignola, which is totally wrong. So I went and Googled it before this video so I made sure I'd say it correctly. So apologies to you, Mike Mignola, for saying your name wrong in my head all these years. 426, 427, and 428, and that's the issue where Jason Todd actually dies. Another cool thing beyond just the sentimental value of these and completing that story in my run in single issues is that these books have some value. Depending on the source you look at, different sources will value each of these individual issues somewhere between $15 and $45, so that's really cool as well, just to know that something you found has some value to it. Another cool fact that I was reminded when I was looking at these books is that in 1988, so we're talking pre-internet, DC did a campaign to let the fans decide whether or not Jason Todd would live. So when you get to part 2 of 4 here, if you open that up and go to the back cover, see, because an explosion's happened, we don't know what the result is, did Jason Todd live or die? They let the fans decide. So there's 2 phone numbers here, and fans could call one if they wanted to vote for Jason Todd to live, and they call the other one if they wanted to vote for him to die. And then I was curious to see how many votes did it take to kill a major character like Robin, and it turns out not that many. The total number of people that actually called in was about 10,600, and the difference between whether or not Jason Todd lived or died came down to a mere 72 votes. So 72 votes decided his death versus his life. The next thing I picked up, another Batman, but from the Detective Comics title. This is number 608, also a minor key, the first appearance of this character Anarchy, only worth like $5 or $6, and honestly the biggest reason I bought this was because I thought the cover was super cool, so I grabbed that. The next find I picked up primarily because I'm a comic book collector, and this just seemed like a core thing to have in a comic book collection as one of those key elements to have and add to your collection, whether you're a DC or a Marvel person. And that is the story Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was a 12-part series from 1984-85 in which DC destroyed their multiverse. And I'm not very familiar at all with the DC multiverse, so I won't try to go down that road and explain things. But at this garage sale, they were selling 11 of the 12 issues for $1 a piece. So they had every issue except for number 1. So starting here, number 2, 3, and all in very good condition. 4, 5, 6. 2 keys in this story. Number 7, Death of Supergirl. Number 8, Death of the Flash. 9, 10, 11, and 12. So that was a huge score to find 11 of these 12 issues for $1 a piece at this garage sale in such good condition, all bagged and boarded. And just a little tidbit, I have subsequently found number 1, also got that for $1 at a different garage sale, but maybe that'll be a different video for a different day. So that was a cool find. The last thing I'll share, different title, 5 more issues to show you, come from a title that, again, I picked these up largely because they are minor keys, not because I have any vested history with the character. But these are Green Lantern comics, and full transparency, the biggest reason I bought these, at the time I thought, ooh, those are minor keys, maybe I'll buy them and I'll turn around and sell them someday. But here I am all this time later and I still haven't sold them. But who knows, maybe someday. But the 5 issues I picked up from this Green Lantern run are number 188, the first appearance of a character, I guess you say the name Mogo. It's M-O-G-O, makes me think of Ego, the Living Planet, on the Marvel side, but he is Mogo, the Living Planet. 192, origin of a character called Star Sapphire. 194, this is just a famous battle between Guy Gardner and Hal Jordan. 195, yep, 195, the reintroduction of Guy Gardner as Green Lantern. And then number 201, which is the first Green Lantern Corps. Again, minor keys, they have a little bit of value to them, but so excited to pick those up for $1. Well, that's all I've got for today. If you've got questions or comments, or if you've made your own great comic book discoveries through garage sales, I'd love to hear about them down below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.